7, 6, 5, 4, 3, 2, 1.
You'll never have the sacred stone.
Oh, this you crazy mother.
Super excited to present this session to you today, How to Fix Your Broken Insurance Agency in 12 Weeks. And I'm basing this on our 12-week agency onboarding program that we use anytime we take on a new agency as part of our partnership, or anytime I go out and do a one-on-one session within an agency. We always go over the 12-week session of how to fix that broken insurance agency. So this isn't something that I heard about or read about. This is something that we do on a regular basis. I want to thank our sponsors and partners, Hampton Inn by Hilton, Vistaprint, Data Lot, Warm Transfers, and of course, Inspire Nation Business Mentoring. This is why the session is 100% free today. So make sure if you have an opportunity to go out and check out our sponsors that you do that. Again, Vistaprint, Hampton Inn by Hilton, Data Lot, Warm Transfers, which is very important for you insurance agents, and making sure that you have warm leads in the agency. And of course, Inspire Nation Business Mentoring and the membership programs that we provide. Every day, guys, we go into our agencies. We want to make sure that we've got good employment. We want to be successful. We want to be motivated. We've got goals. We got all these things that are coming at us. But at the end of the day, are we doing it right? Are we bringing on staff properly? And are we making sure that our business is ready to grow? So how can you tell if you have a broken insurance agency? Well, there are 5 questions that I ask. Does your average new staff hire stay with the agency less than 2 years? Does the agency staff maximize customer events such as endorsement requests, claims, customer follow-up, policy reviews, even rate increase conversations? And we use those to upsell, cross-sell, drive referrals, gather testimonials, drive retention. If they're not doing that, your agency's broken. Does your pay plan include any consequences for staff not following the established agency processes and conversations? Does your staff do what they want to do instead of what's best for the agency? And is prospecting an afterthought in the agency as opposed to being top of mind with every customer and contact interaction? If that's true, your agency's broken. So here's what I want to do. I want to get an idea of what's going on in your agency. So we're going to do our poll. And so the way the poll works, this is a live interactive poll for those of you that are first time. It's a live interactive poll. And what the poll will do is it will allow you to answer your question. Okay, so if you look at your screen, your first question is, can you clearly hear and see the session? And what you'll see is 96% say I can clearly hear and see the session. 4% say I can see but not hear. So that means there's something on your end that's not allowing you to hear the session. So let's go to the next poll question, which is, does the agency staff maximize customer interaction for key events in the agency? So does the agency staff maximize customer interactions? And your choices are, for those of you that are listening on the phone, the choices are no, staff does not maximize customer interactions. The other part is it's hit or miss, but staff is not consistent. And then no, staff does not maximize customer interactions. And 9 times out of 10, what I get, it's hit or miss, or they just don't do it, okay? They just don't do it. 22% of you say no, staff does not maximize customer interactions. 67% of you say it's hit or miss, okay? It's hit or miss. And then the other part there is no, staff does not customize. So 67% of you say it's hit or miss. And I think that's the key thing that I'm looking for. Next is on prospecting. Is prospecting a priority in the agency? Okay, is prospecting a priority in the agency, and is it scheduled in your workday? All right, that's 1 minute, so I'm going to close and share the results with you. 17% of you say yes, it is top of mind, and it has dedicated time in the day, in the work week. 48% of you say it's a priority, but it's not scheduled. 7% say we have a prospecting schedule, but it's not followed. And then 28% of you say prospecting rarely happens in the agency. Well, I'll tell you this, guys, and as competitive as insurance is, if you don't have prospecting time, you better have a hell of a good business referral partner network. Because if you're not prospecting and you're not driving referrals, it's going to be a tough road to hoe for you, okay? Does your pay plan include any consequences for staff not following the established agency processes and conversations? Does your pay plan include any consequences for staff not following the established agency processes and conversations. Share the results with you here. 83% say no, there is no consequence if they don't do what I need them to do. And 17% say yes, there is a pay consequence. On this session, this is a two-part session, guys. We've got today, and then we've got a couple of weeks from now, we're going to finish up the final part. On this session today, we're going to go over the first 6 weeks. And then on the second session, we'll go over the final 6 weeks. So we're going to look at week 1 onboarding tasks. And we call them onboarding because there are certain things that we do in the agency for the agency overall, for the actual task for the individual. So what I'm going to do here is I'm going to go out to our video library. All right. So this is inspirenation.org. This is our membership site and where we go. And for our members, I'm going to go to our video library. Don't worry for members. If non-members go out to our site, they won't see this link. You have to be signed in to see it. And I'm going to go to our 12-week agency onboarding task. And on the 12-week agency onboarding task, you see that I have week 1 agency level things that we're supposed to do. And then I have week 1 staff member level things that need to happen. And week 2, week 3, all the way down to week 12. Okay, so this is what we're working off of today, members. That's why I told you to be prepared to go back out into the video library once we finish here, okay? So now let's go to week 1. First thing that we suggest that you do week 1 is set up the correct email templates. Everything in your agency, guys, if you want to fix if you got a broken agency or you're starting a new agency or you just want to reposition your agency, you need to change the culture. It's all going to start with your email templates. And here's why. Email will say everything that you needed to say. Now, I know the belief is because you came to this training or because you went to a workshop and you heard some great idea that you're going to go back and you're going to teach your agents all this stuff and they're just immediately going to start saying what you want them to say and doing what you want them to do, and it's going to be amazing. That's as far from reality as you ever could get. That's not how it works. You see, there's this filtering process that happens when we have information. So you'll come on this webinar today or come to one of our live workshops, and you'll get 100% of what we teach. But in your own mind, you're going to filter that because there's going to be 20% that you just don't want to do at all. You're not interested. Then there's going to be another 30% that you won't teach your staff or you won't share with your staff because it makes you look bad. So if we talk about pay or we talk about a process or we talk about endorsements or tasks or claims or something like that, and you're not doing them now, you're not suddenly going to go back and tell your staff to start doing it because, one, your staff's going to say, how come we didn't do this all along? You know, why are we just now getting to this? Or two, you're going to be afraid of how your customer is going to react. So let's take the let's take the testimonial process. That's the one I see a big issue with. I tell agents, hey, go out and send out a testimonial request to all your customers. There are a lot of agents that won't do it, and they won't do it because they're afraid of what the customer's going to say or what they're going to write or what they're going to put out in the public. So they go, no, I'm not going to do the testimonial request. I'll just pick 1 or 2 people and ask for a testimonial. Well, you're only going to get a 5% response. If you took 50 of your best customers in the whole wide world and asked them to write you a testimonial, you're only going to get about a 5 or maybe 10% response from those best customers. But again, we're talking about the filtering process. So agents won't go back and tell their staff things that they don't want them to hear because it makes them look bad or they're afraid of the customer, what the customer's going to do. So there's 50% of it gone. Then the staff has their own filtering process. No, I don't want to do that. I did that 5 years ago. I don't like that, or I don't like this. So now those conversations won't happen. You know, I don't like to bother people on endorsements, so I won't ask about upselling or cross-selling, or I don't believe in life insurance, so I won't talk to them about that kind of stuff. So now there goes another 20, 30% that's wiped out. Now from the 100% that you got from our training, you're down to 20%. That's before you ever actually try to implement it. Now, once you try to implement it, you're talking your tools, you're talking your technology, you're talking staff not understanding how technology actually works. So there goes another 10 to 15% gone. So now at the end of the day, even though you walked away from this webinar with 100% of the information, you really only implement maybe 5% of the conversations or 5% of the actual actions that happen. Email is 100%. So that means if we write our email templates right, or you use our Inspire Nation email templates that we've developed over the years, if you use the email templates right, then the only thing I have to do when I'm onboarding when I'm onboarding new staff week 1, is to teach them the proper emails to send based on the situation, to set up my templates, and then send the email. So if I want referrals, my staff won't ask for referrals, then as part of my endorsement confirmation, as part of my claim summary, as part of my policy review, the email that has the referral should be there. That's why we put referrals as their own separate email template, so that it doesn't get blended in with everything else. So when we're setting up our new customer process, each important task has its own email that goes out over a series of 8 or 9 different emails. That way, each thing has its own importance. But more importantly, my customers get 100% of the conversation that I want to say. So starting week 1, guys, you need to set up the correct email templates based on the situation, the task, or the process that you want to implement. Second thing that we do week 1 is we spend 1 hour per day reviewing important coverage and policy weaknesses while using a quote sheet. Brand new staff, and if you're a part of a Williams Family Investment Group agency, brand new staff is not allowed to quote the first month in the rater. They're not. Once a year, we go back out and we pull away that ability to quote in the rater and force people to use a quote sheet. Even though it may slow down the rating process, it increases our upsells, cross-sells, referrals, testimonials, everything, because by using a good quote sheet, it's going to allow the staff to have a good conversation, and it's going to recondition their mind to not just follow the rater. Guys, that's one of the biggest issues when you're dealing with an agency is staff just follows the rater. Whatever order the company decided to put the questions in, that's the order that we follow. And so we become a robot almost to that rater. We become a slave to that rater versus good conversations. So 1 hour per day, this week 1, we're talking week 1 of changing your agency, 1 hour per day you need to spend with your team. You can do it as a group or you can do it individually, and reviewing important coverage and policy weaknesses while using a quote sheet. The first thing I would tell you, stop your people from rating right now on a rater. Stop them right now, this moment, and go back to a quote sheet. When someone calls in, fill out the quote sheet, answer the questions, have a conversation, and then put it in the rater. And I know a lot of agencies won't do that, but I already told you, only 5% of whatever I teach you today is actually going to get implemented. So I'm okay. 95% of it's not going to get done anyway. But for the 5% of you that really want to change your agency, I'm telling you, go back to a quote sheet. Whether you're using an Accord form, whether you're using a quote sheet, or if you're a member of Inspire Nation Business Mentoring, I'll come back out here and go to our week 1 here. You'll see that we actually have the quote sheets. Yeah, there we go. We actually have the quote sheets out here. So where you see this blue hyperlink, if you click on that, that's going to open up to our quote sheet, and we've got our auto quote sheet, property quote sheet, commercial quote sheet. We've got all that out there for you. And by using that quote sheet, I promise you, it will make a huge difference in your agency. So that's the first week 1. We've already got use the correct email templates, spend 1 hour per day reviewing important coverage and policy weaknesses while using a quote sheet. And then the third task in this week 1 is 1 hour per day of outbound calling. Guys, insurance is a conversation-based profession. And if the new staff member or if the agency doesn't understand that making outbound calls is an important part of our business, it's going to be very difficult for them to be successful and to help you be successful as an agency owner without making those calls. So here's what we suggest. If it's a LSP, a licensed sales producer, they need to spend 1 hour per day of customer policy review calls. And that's for any customer coming up for renewal in the next 60 days, especially rate increases. Okay, especially rate increases. But we suggest 1 hour per day. For our non-licensed staff, we suggest 1 hour per day of calling to schedule a customer policy review for the agent or licensed sales producer. So again, if you're a licensed sales producer and you really want to change your agency, use your email templates, set those up, make sure they're automated, make sure that they're part of your signatures in Outlook, or they're part of, if you have a email program that you're using, like our Data Supercenter, or you're using Outlook, or you're using Vertifore, or whatever you're using, make sure that those email templates are already pre-written and put inside of that system, so that all you have to do is change your name and a couple of pieces of information and you're all good. Review those important coverage and policy weaknesses using a quote sheet. Go back to a quote sheet, jump off that radar, and then spend 1 hour per day of outbound calling. And the customer policy review calls, that's nothing more than you calling saying, hey, we're looking at your policy. We want to do a full review with you to make sure if there's anything that can impact your coverage or impact your rate, or just to make sure that you have everything that you need. We want to schedule that for you. And for non-licensed sales producers, they can make that call too. They're just saying, hey, I'm calling on behalf of the agent or calling on behalf of the licensed sales producer, and I want to schedule an appointment with you so that they can go over your whole policy. You have to get your people used to making these outbound calls. If your people will not make outbound calls, it's going to be almost impossible for you to grow your agency. So that's week 1. Week 2, you need to spend 1 hour per day of learning and understanding the agency's technology, okay? The agency's technology. Did you know that the average agency only uses 40% or less of the available technology that's in the agency, and of that technology that they are using, they use less than 50% of the functionality? So again, they only use 40% of the agency technology that's available. And of the technology that they use, they only use 50% or less of the functionality. Guys, I can add 5 to 10% annual growth in an agency just by increasing the agency's use and efficiency of technology that they're already paying for. Now, there are some carriers, I'm mainly talking to my captive guys right now, there are some carriers that limit so much of what you do that if you don't use your technology, you're basically got one leg tied to the other and you're trying to run a marathon. It just doesn't work that way, and I'm not going to name any carriers. You guys know who you are, but some of the captive carriers, oh my goodness, they give you everything you need, but they never teach you how to use it. And then there's some captive carriers that don't give you anything. They limit so much of what you do that it's almost impossible for you to really grow your agency. And sometimes you have to step outside of their technology. But for week 2, to help change your agency, how to fix your broken insurance agency, you need to spend 1 hour per day, the entire second week of this program, doing nothing but learning and understanding the agency's technology. And the best way to do that is you start with what you already do. Hey, this is how we send out emails. This is how we rate. This is how we come over. This is how we address notes or update the records or whatever. But then all those other little buttons that you don't know about, all those other little fields that you don't even know why they're there, all those reports that are available, but you have no clue what they are or how to run them, guys, that's very, very important stuff that you need to know. Because as you go through the campaigns and you're looking at your 5 best prospects and how do I communicate with those 5 best prospects, and what do I say to them, and when do I say it to them, and why would I say it to them, and how do I track what my staff is doing? Those buttons, those tabs that are on that technology make all the difference in the world. So, but here's the problem. We don't spend time trying to learn it. We try to learn it as we do it. Think of it like a sport. Let's say I'm a baseball player, and I've never played baseball before. But now I'm thrown in the middle of a game, and I'm told you need to hit, run, go to second base. You need to know how to field. You need to know how to make sure that you're keeping score. But I have no clue. But I guess I'm supposed to learn it in the middle of playing the game. That's what we do with our staff. We expect them to learn it in the middle of playing the game, as opposed to taking time and teaching them what we need them to do, and a lot of times letting them discover things that our technology does that we didn't even know it did. I can't tell you how many times I'm on the phone or webinar with someone, and I'll say, okay, let's run this report. Don't know how to run that report. Okay, give me a list of all your email addresses, and then we can set up an email campaign. I don't know how to pull my email list. Okay, let's get a spreadsheet together of all your current customers that are coming up for renewal this particular month. Don't know how to do that either. So if you don't know how to run those reports in the technology that you have, how do you expect to grow your business? And here's the deal. When you don't utilize your own technology efficiently, that means you're going to pay someone else to utilize their technology. So I've gone into agencies that have been around for 15 and 20 years, but because they didn't know how to run an audit to pull their former customers or pull a prospect list or pull a quoted but not sold list, what do? They spend $2,000 a month buying internet leads. They spend $500 a month buying leads off a list that they never even actually work. And so they spend all this money doing this when they could have just gone into their own system and pulled this data. And a lot of times it's the same data. Sometimes I'll go in and I'll pull a list of customers or prospects, and then I will pull an audit from their records, and I'll do a compare. In Excel, you can do a compare where you find all the commons. And sometimes 30 or 40% of that list that you bought has the exact same customer or prospect as the list that's in your system. But because we don't know how to use our technology, we can't even maximize that. So, and how do we know if the new staff or if this is actually working? Well, we take the last 20 minutes before the staff member leaves for the day, and we have them explain or train the entire agency on one piece of technology. So today, if it was our billing technology, that's okay. I want you to spend an hour on this billing technology, and then at the end of the day, I want you to tell me what you learned. Teach us in the agency what you learned. Guys, if they can't verbalize how the technology helps the customer or helps the staff member more effectively do their job, then guess what? They're not going to help you using that technology. That technology is not benefiting you. So week 2, 1 hour per day of learning and understanding the agency's technology. Week 3, make sure that your staff member is trained on billing, taking payments, and rate increases. They need to understand why customers pay what they pay. See, a lot of times our customers or our staff, won't upsell, won't cross-sell, won't bring up another line of insurance because they're so afraid of what the customers currently pay. Okay, they're oh no, everybody's taking rate increases and my customers are complaining about rates. And that's because a lot of times we just don't know how to explain rate increases. We've never taught them what goes into rate increases, which is a whole lot more than just the carrier decided I want more money. It could be fraud in the area. I know in Florida and New York, insurance fraud is the major factor that drives what carriers charge. Or you could be on the coast and it's storms or upcoming storms. Or you could be in an area where there's high crime, and we know that the likelihood of your car being broken into, your home being broken into, all those different things increase. Or it could be in an area where there are a lot of uninsured drivers. So we know if you're in an accident, then there's a good chance that that other person's not going to have insurance or not have enough insurance. So now we have to pay that. Even though we didn't charge you for that up front to cover other people's insurance, we know we're going to have to pay that. So all those things go into rate increases, and there's a whole lot more, the cost of goods and services, the cost of labor, all those other things. But if our staff is not trained to have that conversation, then what do? They just cut premium first and foremost. That's the number one thing is I'm just going to cut premium. I'm going to try to drop this down. I'm going to give you very, very low coverage. I'm going to do everything I can to try to compete with the Geicos of the world and, all these little bitty no-name insurance carriers because I'm so afraid of rate, instead of making you understand, look, this is why you don't want to go with those no good carriers, with those cut rate carriers, because you're missing this, you're missing this, you're missing this. So it's really important that they understand why our rates go up. And so for our members, the staff member, we've got a whole training out here on rate increase and why they go up, and training and conversations and all that. So members, make sure you go out and watch that. But for everyone else, your person needs to understand billing. A lot of times billing or a problem with billing is nothing more than the result of timing. Okay, timing. So your people need to understand by carrier how they bill. Maybe they bill 10 days after this particular event, or maybe they bill starting 30 days prior to this date. And now the person paid at 35, day 35, because they basically went 5 days beyond when they should have paid. So now there's a whole new bill that's generated. Now the customer gets a bill for $600 where they've been paying $300. So the customer calls in and, oh, why are my rates going up, and why is this going up? And our staff member freaks out because they don't understand the billing cycle and how this all works. I don't know. I'll get back with you. And the moment you tell a customer, I don't know, you just lost credibility. Even if you tell them, look, I'm not sure, I'll double check it, I'll research it, I'll get back to you. Because they feel like, well, you bill every day and now you don't know how to explain this to me. And a lot of times, I'm telling you, 80% of what we see with billing problems, and I'm not talking about not paying your bill, I'm talking about whenever there's a change in what the customer thinks they're supposed to pay versus what they do pay, it's primarily because there was a late payment. And because of that late payment, a new bill was generated. And once a new bill is generated, now there's a catch-up. So if you don't pay the $600 bill, that catches everything up or puts you back at zero, and you only pay $300 because you're paying late, now you get a late fee, or you get a double bill the next time. And so this billing cycle problem just keeps going on and on. That's why we tell you week 3, you need to really study billing with that new staff member, or as an agency. If you're doing this as an agency, you don't have new staff, you're trying to change your agency, then you need to go back to the basics. Study billing. Okay. Then study taking payments and making sure that we're taking the payments properly, applying them properly, making sure we can validate that the payment was accepted. And of course, always go over the training with rate increase, right? We want to spend an hour a day per that week. Now, when we say a week, let me make sure we're clear. We're talking about taking an hour a day, 5 days, or 6 days if you're open 6 days a week. We're talking about taking an hour for every day that you're open in that week and dedicating it to that particular task. So if it's billing, taking payments, rate increases, that's that 1 hour that we're really going to study billing, taking payments, and rate increases. All right, we're not talking about changing the whole week. We're just saying 1 hour per day during this onboarding week. All right, let's go to week 4. So week 4 is where we start getting into compensation, where we start changing the culture of the agency. Because here's the deal. If your people feel no consequence for not doing what you need them to do, then they're not going to do what you need them to do. They're going to do what they want to do, okay? What they want to do. It's just like a child. Think of it like a child. Let's move away from insurance and go back to parenthood, those of you that are parents. Let's say little Johnny's job was to take the trash out. Okay, that's little Johnny's job every week, take the trash out. And little Johnny doesn't take the trash out. And there's no repercussion to little Johnny taking the trash out. Well, guess what? We, as the parent, now start to feel a sense of frustration. Frustration, by its very nature, is composed of 2 things: a sense of helplessness and a sense of hopelessness. Helplessness is, I can't change this. I don't have the power to change this. Hopelessness is, it will never change. So I can't change it. I don't ever expect it to change. So now we get frustrated with our staff. Oh, they're useless. They're lazy. They don't do this. They don't do that. They just do what they want. I can't get them to upsell or cross-sell. Here's what I will tell you. Okay, and this comes from my years in the military, my years of leadership, my years of running insurance agencies and being a part of the leadership of running insurance agencies. Staff, by their very nature, will do what you train them to do. Let me say that again. Staff, by their very nature, the fact that they apply for this job, the fact that they get a paycheck, they will do what you train them to do. But if you've never trained them, if you've never gone through week 1, week 2, week 3, week 4, these things that we're talking about, if you've never trained them or go back every year and retrain them, then they're going to do what's comfortable for them. They're going to do whatever they feel like is successful in their job, because you're not giving them what success looks like, so they have to make up what success looks like. May not be what you think it is, but it works for them. When you start attaching things to pay, now there's a whole different level of motivation. There's a whole different level of compliance. During week 4, week 1 through 3, we've trained them on kind of those core things that we need them to do. Of course, there's more, but these are the kind of core basic things that we need them to do. Now, week 4, we're going to start training them on the specific money-making task within each process. And we're going to explain how we're going to validate that task, because enhanced pay, or that ability to remove part of their pay, starts in a couple of weeks. So let's take a real process. Let's take the endorsement process. And so for this, I'm going to come back over to the video and document library, and we're going to go into our endorsement process. So for us, our endorsement process is they have to email the confirmation template every time they do an endorsement. And part of that email template says, this is your policy weakness, and we love referrals, and this is what you ask us to do when you called in to request an endorsement. So they have to make sure that that endorsement email is sent. And on that endorsement email, they have to mention a policy weakness or coverage. So that could be you don't have enough uninsured or underinsured motorists, or that could be we have your auto but not your home, or that could be you only have $1,000 in medical, or you don't have jewelry coverage. Whatever that is, whatever they spot as a weakness, they have to mention that in the confirmation email. So now my job is to come back and spot check the confirmation email. I don't have to sit down and ask little Johnny or Susie, did you do this? And now if I find out they're lying to me, they just lost credibility with me. We got all these other issues, these ethics issues and moral issues that are going on because little Susie or Johnny told me they did it, but they didn't. So instead of me going to little Susie or Johnny trying to get information from them, I check the process. So I will go out to our endorsement, whatever tool we're using for endorsements, and I'll say, okay, Alvarez, we just did an endorsement for Alvarez. We added a car. And now I go to Alvarez's record and I look to see if there was there an endorsement confirmation email sent. Okay. And now I look at that endorsement email confirmation and I'm looking for 3 things. One, first and foremost, I'm looking for, was that confirmation email sent? 2, I'm looking to see, was there a policy weakness discussed? And 3, I'm looking to see what Johnny did. He wanted to add a car. So the endorsement says we added a car, but on the endorsement confirmation, it says we took away a car. Well, I can spot check right there and goes, oh, we got a problem. Okay, this doesn't line up right here. But part of my validation on that spot check, because again, I'm not going to check every single thing you do. That's not my job, is to micromanage you. I'm just going to do spot checks. So if you did 30 endorsements last week, I'm going to go in and I'm going to check 5 of them. And in those 5, if I find flaws in those 5 and you fall below the 80% or 90% or whatever guideline I set out there to say, when I spot check, I expect 4 out of 5 of these to be right. And if you're less than 4 out of 5, now your pay is influenced. By doing the task, by making them understand what tasks are going to impact their enhanced pay in a couple of weeks, now I get them into that mindset. And here's the deal. Everything is not important. This is for you agents. Everything is not as important as everything else. So that means you can't penalize them because, oh, I asked you to ask for an email address and you didn't get an email address, so therefore I'm going to take your pay from you. Oh, I asked you to make sure that the doors were locked and you didn't make sure the doors were locked, so I'm taking your pay from you. Oh, I asked you to read my favorite book and you never read my favorite book, so I'm taking your pay away from you. That's not what this is. This is not about punishment. Let's make sure we understand this. If you're trying to implement this process, this is not about punishment. This is about doing things that enhance the growth of the agency. Okay, enhance the growth of the agency. So in our new customer guide, we have our our new staff training guide. We actually break it down for you and tell you, look, this is what's important. This is what's not important. These are the 3 key tasks in the endorsement process. These are the 4 key tasks in the new customer process. These are the 2 key tasks. And that's what they're getting their enhanced pay for. So let's talk about what enhanced pay is. The way we pay is there are 3 pots of money. There's your base pay. Let's say your base pay was $15 an hour. So that's your base pay. That's for showing up every day, doing the core things that I need you to do, all that kind of stuff, answering the phones, all that stuff that we need you to do. But then there are certain tasks that we know, when performed consistently and effectively, are going to increase the agency. They're going to increase our premium, our cross-sells. They're going to increase our retention, our referrals, our testimonials. They're really going to make the agency better. So in the endorsement process, those two things that I'm looking for in the endorsement process: one, did you discuss a policy weakness? Okay. And two, did you send the confirmation email? So for me, those are the two things I'm spot checking. So that first base pay is $15 an hour. The enhanced pay is for those two tasks or three tasks per process that I feel like if you do these, that's going to make more money for the agency. So for that, I'm going to pay you another $3 an hour, but that's variable pay. So that means if I spot check you and I say, okay, we're going to keep everything at 90% compliance, I spot check you and you fall below 90% compliance for this next upcoming pay period, I'm taking that $3 an hour away from you. And the reason I'm taking it away is not to punish you, but because you didn't do what I gave you extra money to do. I gave you extra money to do the endorsement process, to do the new customer process, to do the claims process, to do these other processes. I gave you extra money for that, and you're not doing it. So why do I need to keep giving you extra money for stuff you're not doing? So again, it's not to punish you. It's to make sure that there's a consequence for you not doing the things that I gave you extra money to do. And then the third pot of money is based on your sales. So if you get, for us, you have to have a minimum amount of production. Maybe that's 15 items. So at your 16th item, we're going to start your bonus and we're going to make it retroactive to your first item. So that means if we pay you, let's say $10 a car that you write, on your 16th car, we're going to give you, that's when you would kick in and we would retroactively go back to car one, and now you just made $160 in bonus. But if you don't hit those 15, then there is no retroactive pay. And the reason why we do that, guys, the reason why we separate the three pots of money is because there are actually three different levels of job that I want you to do. I want you to come in every day on time. I want you to show up and do what you're supposed to do. I want you to make sure that, you're answering the phones and you're doing all that stuff that I pay you your base pay to do. But then there are other things that are so important in the agency that I'm willing to give you extra money to do them. I'm willing to give you extra money to follow this process and follow this conversation and follow this pathway and do this particular task. I'm willing to give you extra money because it's that important in the agency. But if you're not going to do it, I'll take it away. And then of course, there's sales. Now, you can actually lose your enhanced pay and earn a bonus in sales. Maybe you won't do what I need you to do, so I'm not going to pay you extra money to do it. But your sales are so good that you earn bonuses. This kind of levels out in the agency what is happening, because I have a lot of good salespeople, strong salespeople, that will not follow the process. So I'm not going to give you extra money because you're not following my process. But you make enough money, you make up for it in your sales. And I'm definitely not going to penalize you for sales. So those three things work. That's how the enhanced pay structure works for us, okay? So week 4, we really start teaching them the processes and what is going to impact their enhanced pay. Week 5 and 6, we're going to kind of go back over. Week 5, we're going to go back over. Week 1, 2, 3, and 4, make sure that you understand, hey, this is what we expect of you. We went over this training. Do you have any questions? Do you have anything like that? And then week 6, your enhanced pay starts. And the way enhanced pay works is I'm going to spot check you whenever I choose to spot check you. So you won't know. I'm not going to put it on a schedule so that you can suddenly run and do things right for the next 2 days before I spot check you. It's a spot check, like any other spot checks, quality control. So it may be next week, it may be next month, but whenever I spot check you, if you're not doing what I need you to do, then that means the next pay period, whether you get paid every week, whether you get paid every 2 weeks, or whether you get paid on the 1st and 15th, whatever your next pay period is, I'm removing your enhanced pay for that pay period. Once that money is removed for that pay period, I'm going to do another spot check prior to the next pay period, because I want you to have the ability to earn that money back, because it's not about me keeping the money, it's about you doing the process. So that means if you get paid every 2 weeks, I take your enhanced pay this 2 weeks. Probably 10, 11, 12 days later after that, I'm going to spot check you again to see if you're back to doing what I need you to do. If you're still not back to doing what I need you to do, then you'll lose that enhanced pay for the next 2 weeks. And the way we work is if you lose your enhanced pay 3 times in a 90-day period, you're on probation. Because now you're not even trying to do what I need you to do. So you're either, well, I can't say that. You're either on probation or we remove the enhanced pay portion of your pay altogether. Because again, I have such great salespeople in some of our agencies because of enhanced pay. I just rather remove it. This is not even part of your compensation anymore. So you just get your base pay and you get your bonus, your sales bonus. And there, life is all good. And we just leave it at that. Okay? So we're going to stop here. I'm going to answer if you have any questions about anything. But that's our week 5 and 6. Let me kind of go back over this again. Week 1, we set up the correct email templates because that's the base of everything we want to do. We do 1 hour per day to review important coverage and policy weaknesses. For this first month, we remove them completely from the rater and we make everything a quote sheet so that we can get back to good conversations. And then we do 1 hour per day of outbound calling. That all starts week 1. Week 2, 1 hour per day of learning and understanding the agency's technology. Week 3, billing, taking payments, and rate increases so that they can explain why customers pay what they pay. Week 4 is when we start really teaching them the key task within each process and explain how the key task will be validated. Week 5, we review week 1 through 4 so that if there are any questions or issues, we know what's going on. And then week 6, we start their enhanced pay, the enhanced pay portion of their compensation. And then we flow with it from there.